Hey everybody, my name is AussieBrony, and today I will be reading the 9th chapter of The Changeling and the Pony, written by the Nine-Tard. Yeah, last chapter was quite good. Yeah. I'm going to start the reading now. The morning was a small drizzle, the clouds getting lighter as the days had passed. The storm was supposed to be over a while ago, but it was a dry fall season, and the Pegasi had a lot of rain to make up for. Be careful. I am being careful. You just have to trust me and sit still, please. I don't want to poke you by accident. Right, sorry. I'm just nervous. Please don't jerk around. Rarity and Twilight were delivering some jars over to Fluttershy that morning, both unicorns using their magic to lift the heavy boxes. They normally delivered extra jars from Appleacres, courtesy of Applejack. These jars were supposed to be used for honey Fluttershy's bees would supply soon. As they came up to her mailbox, they were both shocked to see one of her front windows broken and her door ajar. Panicking, the two set the boxes down and galloped into her door. Fluttershy, are you okay? Twilight called out, nudging the door open to the left of it a little bit. They both gasped at the horrible state the house was in. Furniture was all about, her curtains had been shredded, and glass was all over the floor. Some of Fluttershy's animal friends, Angel and Cooted, were mopping and cleaning up some of the mess. There were even a part of the room's floor that was stained a dark red. Was that blood? The thought of there being a pool of blood in their best friend's house was almost unbearable. Rarity's compulsive need to clean almost got to the best of her, but she resisted the urge when her concern with Fluttershy's well-being overtook her. Where's Fluttershy? She asked Angel. Is she hurt? Angel put his hands up in a calming manner and pointed upstairs, indicating she was fine and in her room. Oh, thank you, she galloped upstairs, with Twilight close behind. The two reached her room and slowly opened the door. Fluttershy, Twilight uneasily cried. Are you in here? Yes, they heard her call back, making them both relieved. Rarity opened the door all the way, and they were both greeted by her and a grisly sight. Darkhorn was sitting on a pillow covered with a towel, and Fluttershy beside him. She was in the process of applying the last few stitches into his shoulder, which they could see 3 devastating gashes on it. There was a bowl of warm water next to him, which was now bloody because of the needle, and had a blood-stained white towel in her other hoof, mopping up any excess red fluid coming from his wound. His wings were drooping to the ground, making it easier for her to access his gashes. But he did wince every time she pulled the needle and its thread with her teeth. Fluttershy had stitched up plenty of hurt animals before, but she knew how to do it with as little pain as possible. He had to admit he didn't like the idea of getting a needle going repeatedly into his flesh, however, other than the excruciating pain that came from the rubbing alcohol she used to sterilize the cuts. He hadn't felt anything other than a little bit of stinging. Rarity and Twilight entered the room, worry and horror mixed on their faces. I cannot talk today. What in the name of Celestia happened? Fluttershy asked. Twilight asked. Looking around. Your living room and kitchen's a mess, since Fluttershy was busy sewing up his wound. at the moment. Darkhorn answered for her. A big frickin' Timberwolf broke in last night. He was looking for food, and he found it. He attacked Fluttershy, so I sort of stopped him. His gaze fell, but Fluttershy intervented. Don't be so modest about this, she gently said through her teeth. He fought that horrible creature with all his might and scared him away. I never seen anything like it. Twilight didn't see it, but Rarity noticed a small blush travel across Fluttershy's pretty face. He was very brave. Rarity had to keep from awkwardly smiling at Darkhorn, as Darkhorn also tried to hide his bashfulness from them. Was there something going on between them? She just had to know. Twilight didn't notice their odd behaviour, though she was more worried about their current state. Neither of them had the chance to clean up, as Fluttershy had spent the rest of the night tending to her frightened animals and the wounded Darkhorn. Fluttershy had some bruises, and her pink mane was a tangled mess. Other than that, she looked unharmed. Darkhorn, however, looked horrible. His blue hair was stringy and hung around his face in clumps. He was covered in scratches and bruises, caused from his teeth and claws. This dark coat was stained with mud and blood. The gash on his shoulder was devastating, and he looked worn out. They both not only needed to clean up, but check to be sure they would be okay. Fluttershy pulled the last stitch and tugged part of his flesh back together, finishing her seamless work. She spat out the needle and bit the thread to cut it. She pulled the needle and string back into the bloodified water and pointed to a clean towel on her dresser. Twilight, can you hand me that cloth? I just need to wipe these stitches clean. Twilight nodded and used her magic to hover the towel over to Fluttershy. After a quick thank you, she dipped it in the red water and wiped off the remaining blood and mud away from her stitches. When she was satisfied with her work, Fluttershy smiled and backed off. There you go, you should be fine. Just don't do anything too stressful, else the stitches could tear. Darkhorn was surprised she was done and how little pain he felt. He sat up a bit and stretched his shoulders. His left one still felt sore, but it was nowhere near as bad as when she started. He'd still be able to fly, just not fast. He hadn't tried flying with these feather wings, had he? He looked at them briefly, not noting he couldn't flap them like his original bug wings. If he practiced, though, he'd probably get the hang of it. Without meaning to do it, he looked at Fluttershy's own wings. Funny, he never realized how soft and pretty Pegasus' wings were. In fact, he was a little happy to have some. They weren't as ugly as he originally thought. He glanced up to her face, this time to acknowledge her. Thanks. She nodded, and the room was silent for a few minutes. Rarity continued holding back her smile and broke the silence. You poor dears, she walked over. These past few days have been just simply dreadful for both of you. I insist we get you fixed up at the spa. Fluttershy liked the idea of getting cleaned up at the spa, but Twilight came up next to them. Actually, Rarity, I want to take care of Darkhorn. His injuries aren't going to be mended at a spa. I'd like to try and help him back at the library. I still have some helpful ingredients from Zukora that could heal anything internal. She looked at Fluttershy with a smile. It's not like you did a bad job. I just want to make extra sure he's alright and doesn't need a trip to the hospital. Fluttershy nodded understanding completely. Darkhorn didn't like the idea of getting separated again, but Twilight wasn't as crazy as the others. And if she could help further, that would be great. So hesitantly, he agreed. After delivering the boxes of jars inside, Rarity rushed Fluttershy off to the spa, while Twilight took Darkhorn back to the treehouse. It wasn't long before the other mares caught wind of what had happened at Fluttershy's and went over to her house to help the animals clean up. As Rarity and Fluttershy checked into the spa, the ponies there were carefully trying to fix and clean Fluttershy's tangled mess of a mane, as the two ponies chatted like they often did when they met there. Rarity was very generous to Fluttershy's feelings and let her go on and on about the horrible night, absorbing every detail. She had never seen her tender friend this upset, but something did get her attention. When Fluttershy talked in detail how Darkhorn protected her from that Timberwolf, there seemed to be a spark in her eyes she'd never seen before. Fluttershy seemed excited to talk about him, and it was frankly adorable. In the middle of her talking, Rarity chuckled. "Fluttershy, dearie." She put her pristine hoof on her arm. "You seem to be in high spirits despite the attack. To be blunt, I've never seen you so fascinated about a pony before. Nevertheless, a stallion." Fluttershy's face began to grow red again in realization she was going on and on and on about Darkhorn. She looked away from her lovely friend. "Oh, really? I hadn't noticed. He was very brave, though." I know so, sweetie," she cooed. "And I must say he's quite a fetching young Alicorn, is he not?" Fluttershy dipped her head a bit as one of the ladies washed some of the mud from her fine fur. "Well, I guess he's a little—" Her voice became a shy squeak. "Cute?" Rarity started to smile. "More than that, he's strong and proud. He may be a little rough around the edges, but I could tell when I first met him that he had a heart of gold. And I feel you may have noticed as well." The yellow Pegasus nodded slightly and put a clean spa robe on, along with Rarity. This only made Rarity's smile broaden as she asked her something she had wondered since that morning. "Fluttershy, if I may be so bold, do you happen to have a crush on Darkhorn?" Fluttershy became flustered, and now her whole face was red. She was squeaking to a point she was— I don't know what that word is. She had already answered for Rarity, who had gave a giddy giggle. Oh my word, you do have a crush on him." Fluttershy quickly pawed at her friend's hoof. "Please don't say that so loud." Rarity's giggle reduced down to a snort. "I apologize, but Fluttershy, you must understand my excitement. You actually have a crush on another pony. This is such a surprise." The mare couldn't stop a small grin from appearing on her face. "To be honest, I can hardly believe it either." "Okay, details. When did it happen?" Rarity leaned in with interest. The beauty I don't know what that is, had begun to polish Fluttershy's hooves. "Around when we first met. He was harsh and a little grumpy at first, but there was something there. It was like he had an inner bout of kindness I wasn't aware of. Then when the wolf attacked, he was so protective, and I've never felt so afterwards with anyone. He stayed with me while I just cried. He didn't even care he was in pain. He was just there to comfort me. I really like him, Rarity. Please don't tell any pony." Rarity couldn't stop smiling. "Your secret's safe with me, hun. But are you going to tell him yourself?" I don't know yet." She bit her lip and looked away as she and Rarity continued to be pampered. Rarity knew she was lying but pressed no further. If Fluttershy didn't want to share what she had in mind, she wasn't going to meddle, though it was killing her inside. Truth be told, Fluttershy did have a less extravagant plan in mind. It would be a show of gratitude in her own way. Darkhorn looked around Twilight Library, staring at all the books. He had since then been washed up. Shortly after Spike asked what was going on, he had been analysed by Twilight, and thanks to some strange remedy she had given him, his soreness had cleaned right up. His shoulder still stung, but it didn't hurt having to move his wings. I take it it's something like painkillers. Made by Zakora. Twilight came down the stairs and noticed him admiring the library as if he had never seen it before, as if he had seen it for the first time. They're nice, aren't they? When I'm bored, I like to spend my time cataloguing them. There's a lot of stories within these walls, and I've read them all. While he was looking, something caught his eye. A little book on the table was just laying there. It had a picture of a little grey, skinny duck surrounded by yellow ducks, and their mother on the cover. It had a little title on it, but it was nothing but strange scrawls to him. Out of curiosity, he opened the book and looked at its watercoloured pages. More words were written underneath the pictures, but once again they were I don't know what that word is to him. What's this one? That's the Ugly Duckling, Twilight answered. It's one of Fluttershy's favourite stories here. I guess because it's focused on little baby ducks. Did you read a lot back in Canterlot too? No, actually my mother had my siblings and I so busy we never had time for books. The purple filly tilted her head at him. Siblings? You have brothers and sisters? Uh-huh. How many? A lot. He dipped his head in slight shame. Truth is, Twilight, since she kept us so busy from books, I don't know how to read. Twilight looked at him as if he had stabbed her. By Equestria, that's horrible. I can't imagine a full day without reading a book. Well, that's Twilight for you. She walked over to him and took the book gently out of his hooves with her magic. I can help you remedy that. First we have to find a suitable story to start on. Actually, Twilight, he lifted his hoof out to her. Can we start with that one? The title seems interesting. She blinked her deep purple eyes at him and lifted the book back down to their level. Oh, okay. Well, this is a pretty good story too. She and Darkhorn sat down next to each other as she hovered the book in front of him. Using her magic, she opened it to the first page. Without meaning to, Darkhorn wished he had the magic of a unicorn. Twilight slowly but surely started making it easy for him to follow along. Okay, the Ugly Duckling. Once there was a mother duck that had 6 eggs. All of them looked normal but one. It was big and grey. All the others were small and white. And so she continued the story about the baby duckling that was so ugly and different nobody wanted him, not even his own family. He was treated horribly for most of his short life for his hideous features, but eventually the duckling grew into a beautiful swan, showing that beauty can lie within the ugliest of creatures. He had liked the story, but also felt a sort of bitterness towards it. He sort of related to the character. He was a changeling, an ugly duckling among perfect ponies, yet no matter what, they would never see any beauty beneath him, and beauty would certainly not come with age in his case. No, as he grew, his fangs would grow, his wings would broaden, his height would increase, and his appetite would be insatiable. He was born an ugly duckling, and would stay as one for the rest of his days. Nothing could change that. He also knew he didn't have beauty within him, so why would they think otherwise? Oh, what's happened? Oh, once the story was over, he wanted to hear more stories, specifically ones that didn't have to do with inner beauty.
Most of the days they sat there, going through book after book of stories about knights, dragons, damsels, and all the story works. He'd enjoyed every bit of it, and Twilight enjoyed reading with him. It would take much longer to learn, but just starting with was good enough for him at the moment. In the middle of St. George and the Dragon, a knock came at the door. Darkhorn went to answer it as Twilight waited. When he opened the door, he was surprised to see Fluttershy standing before him, a basket in her teeth. She looked brand new. That spa had done wonders on her. The yellow mare bowed her head when she saw him. Hey, Darkhorn. I thought you'd still be here with Twilight. You look better. She put the basket down in front of him. There was something wrapped in a white cloth inside, a sweet scent catching his attention. I brought you something as a thank you present for last night. She brightened a bit, and I was wondering if you had some free time, if you could help me with the honey harvest. It was always so tedious to do it by myself, but everyone else is usually so busy at this time of year. Harvesting the honey and making the different flavors could take days, but I could really use an extra hoof. If you don't mind, that is. The Alcorn didn't really know what to say. Should he accept? What was the harm, really? It wasn't like he had anything to do anyway. Sure, Fluttershy, I don't mind helping. She looked like he'd given her the best answer in the world. Great. I'll see you this afternoon. She galloped off in a hurry, heading straight back to her cabin. Enjoy the snack. Darkhorn carefully waved goodbye to her before bringing the basket inside and closing the door. She put the basket on Twilight's table and unwrapped the package, revealing a beautiful jar full of some kind of golden thick liquid. The lid of it was sealed under some kind of white lace, and a pink ribbon that matched Fluttershy's hair was wrapped around the rim. The liquid within the jar shined brightly underneath the light of the treehouse, lighting up the white basket and in its golden blaze. It was beautiful to him, and it had a particular sweet scent to it that he enjoyed. Twilight looked in the basket. Oh wow, she gave you an early jar of her bees' honey. That was really nice of her. She reached down and opened the delicately sealed container and held it out to him. Want to go ahead and taste? It's your honey jar, after all. His nostrils flared at the aroma. Though he didn't eat, the smell was pleasuring, and it was in fact a gift from Fluttershy. So the Changeling took a spoon provided by Twilight and dipped it in the honey. After getting a small scoop, he carefully slid it on his tongue and tasted it with caution. He hadn't forgotten about the incident. Sorry about that, everybody. Where was I? Oh yeah, he hadn't forgotten about that incident with Pinkie Pie and that dreadful cupcake. However, though, it was sweet. It was sweet in a whole different kind of way. The thick substance made his taste buds dance and tingle. It was refreshing and smooth. It even filled him with a bit of happiness. Twilight tried some shortly after. Wow, I tell you, Fluttershy makes the sweetest honey in all of Ponyville. Too bad she only sells it once a year. You were lucky to get an early jar, Darkhorn. He tried another spoonful and felt a small hum come from his chest. Yeah, I guess I was. Darkhorn, though he tried to deny it, was starting to like the idea of spending a few days with Fluttershy even more. Hey everybody, I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, give a like, comment and subscribe. That story was written by, this story is written by the Ninetard. That is his name on fanfiction.com, .net. So if you want to check out this story or any of the other stories he's written, go check it out. There we go. Like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed it. See you later, everybody.